Mereway Fire Station, Northampton, and Green Watch are on duty. This is one of 22 fire stations in Northamptonshire. There's one pump and the county's only specialist emergency rescue tender. As the alarm sounds for the first emergency call-out of the shift, Watch Manager Ken Brown mans the pump.
102 mobile, 21 motorway, cross fire between junction 15, Newport Hacknell.
I've been in the fire service 30 years. Well, I left school and joined the army, the Royal Artillery, at 17, and did just over 6 years. When I left the army, I joined the fire service, which is what I'd always wanted to do.
Southbound on the M1, they can see the incident, but first they need to get onto the northbound carriageway.
Who's in charge? Post Manager Harrison. Yeah. Wait, you've got 2 big house leaders underneath. Yeah. We'll put one out already. We'll move it back this way. Just need your water, really. Okay. Okay, we'll try right up.
We found out that there was actually a tunnel underneath the M1 where a farmer actually had some cribs that he put hay and straw in to feed his animals, and it was this feed that had caught fire. It was creating a lot of smoke and causing some confusion and some danger on top of the motorway. One of the problems we have with fires next to the motorway is the smoke spreading across from whatever fire it is and causing a hazard by obscuring the vision of drivers.
Getting down the motorway embankment is something of a scramble, but with the hose reel hanging over the bridge parapet, the fire is soon under control. Connecting tanks with the other fire engine, Mereway's pump provides the much-needed water.
This is 1800 litres we'll transfer across. If they require any more, we can always go down, fill up from a fire hydrant or from a lake or a river and bring the water back to them, sort of called ferrying the water.
The next job is to find the nearest hydrant and replenish the empty water tank. Back at the fire station, the crew of the emergency rescue tender are practicing their skills. Sheldon Fenning has been in the fire service for 20 years.
The emergency tender is a specialist vehicle, and it differs because it doesn't carry water. It's a rescue vehicle. So anything that involves rescue, car crashes, planes, cows, humanitarian services. The HIAB is the crane on the back of the vehicle. It allows us to lift cars, lift horses or cows out of ditches, and it's a very good tool. It has a 2-ton winch on it, so we can put equipment over bridges. So if we've got an incident on the railway, we've got a railway trolley where we can lower down onto the track and push equipment up the line.
The pump has barely got back to Mereway before the next emergency call-out.
We're going to an area of Northampton called Goston, where there was until recently a large ball bearing factory called British Timken, an international company. Well, I can see the smoke from here. Change of location, it could be Limehurst Square. Is there a Tesco food shop there now? Yes, yeah, well, it could be near there by the church and the Tesco's. They're getting multiple calls for this, and none of them are that certain about its location, so we're talking somewhere in a quarter-of-a-mile radius at the moment of where the original one came from. But thankfully there's lots of smoke there, so we'll follow that. That's always a good indicator of fire.
It turns out that the site of the British Timken factory is now under development for housing. It's an area of several hectares, surrounded by security fencing. The fire appears to be somewhere inside.
Hold on, this can get a bit rough.
The only option is to take the fire engine off-road.
Fire engines aren't really made to go off-road. They're quite heavy, they're low-slung in certain places, and they have big water tanks in them with flopping around all over the place. So we have to be very careful where we take them. Thankfully it's dry. In wet weather that would have got bogged down and would have been recovered. We probably wouldn't have taken that route at all. But it's not unusual to take some time to actually locate a fire and get as close to it as we can. That was unusual today because of the size of the place. But there are other fires we go to where we can see it and just don't know how to get to it. So we go round and round until we find it.
So bring it further up, hose reel through here and get beaters as well.
It turns out that the fire is at what used to be a beautiful bowling green attached to the factory's social club. Leading with the hose reel is crew manager Sean O'Neill.
Even though we'd made quite an effort to get as close as we could, you know, across that dirt track, we still weren't that close, so we decided to use a hose reel because it was spread over quite a large area, so we needed to move about quite a bit. If we'd have had to augment the supply, say from a hydrant, obviously for George, who was pump operator, that may have become a problem because he would have had to go to the street, which would mean going over the fence somehow. So if he'd have had to get extra water, we would have had to go to the street nearby, perhaps cut through the fence or even go over the top of it.
Exactly how a Bowling Green pavilion and the surrounding grass spontaneously combust is difficult to explain, but Ken has his suspicions.
It could be children playing about, or it could be anybody playing around, but in this weather it could also be maybe magnification of the sun's rays through glass. There's plenty of glass and bottles laying around, so I couldn't really say to be certain. My instinct would go with my first impression.
With the fire out, the team start packing up, but back at the fire station, the crew of the emergency tender have had a 999 call to go to a road accident. It goes immediately to all accidents where people are reported trapped. It's considered better to get there and not be needed, rather than set off afterwards when it may be too late. It's the wrong time of day to have to get through the traffic. This makes it all the more challenging for driver Mark Notley.
People tend to panic when we're driving the fire sign and just stop. That could be, you know, to stop at a set of traffic lights, which isn't always the best idea, because if there's two lanes and the two lanes of traffic, they just stopped, they're not going to get out of the way. Obviously we want people to endanger themselves, but try and get out of the way for us, but in a safe manner.
As they get closer to the accident, a message comes over the radio advising them that the emergency tender might be needed at another accident.
At the moment we're going to one RCC with one person trapped. At the same time there's been an RCC on the motorway involving a lorry and a person possibly trapped underneath the lorry. If we get to the first one and they get them out, we may still get a detour to the other RCC.
They arrive to find that the casualty has been successfully cut free, and their injuries are now being treated by paramedics from the air ambulance. It's now going to be a quick turnaround and a high-speed drive to the M1.
The incident on the motorway is more serious than the one we've just been through. They could manage with the resources they've got at that RCC, so we've been redeployed to the motorway. So we're going against the flow of traffic we just came from to go to another incident. Hopefully it's not too serious and we'll get there and do some good.
The emergency tender covers the whole county. A fire appliance will get to an emergency within 5 or 10 minutes, based in the whole of the county. If you're riding the emergency tender, it could possibly take you an hour and a quarter to get to the furthest points of our county. Sometimes the rescue has been successful prior to you getting there. So sometimes you'll drive for 50 minutes and then they'll say 105, which is our call sign, you're no longer required. At that point, we turn round, drive back to the station.
As they approach the M1 slip road, the call to stand down does indeed come through, and they return to station.